bit cutthroat, man. When you start counting money with investors, it's not what you think. I introduced the numerology episode so that I could kind of start talking about like how they count in investments in the investment realm and how that actually applies to the occult eventually. Because you have a regular normal count, which is, 1, 2, 3, 4, a regular count. And then you have like counts that kind of like are based on credit cycles. So it's like the count kind of like either can go back or forward depending on the longer count. It's like a longer count essentially is what it is. And dealing with finances. And they count like this so that they can control how much money you make on the investment realm. This is why they count like this. So when I say they count like this, what do I mean? So for instance, I'll give you an example. They count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So the first six set of numbers. We're going to go into just one word meanings of each number because this is how they look at it in banking and in sports as well. So like when you deal with the number 0 to them, it starts with 0. And I asked the question, a couple of episodes back, like where do we start? And it starts with 0. I mean, it has to. And in some counts, you can go, backwards from 0 to 11 and down, or, depending on what type of system you're counting. Or you can go the normal way, which is 0, 1, 2, 3. And I'm bringing that up because each of these, when you go from 1 through 6 in banking, this goes into like credit as well. They have meanings. Like when you have a credit score, most people have a credit score. So like depending on what your credit score is, like if it was like a 300, for instance, that represents a certain type of credit. So we're going to get into that. So like the 0 would represent land. The number 1, that would represent a military or monetization, financing on a monetizing level. Meaning there's different ways to finance. You can finance with fiat notes. That's not a 1. And that's what people don't know, the secrets that they don't tell you. You can finance with money. That would be considered a 1, but it has to be money. Like this to them would be considered money. And I'm not flashing this to be flashy or anything. But this would be considered money to them. Like literally. Because of the fact that of course it's gold. So it's literally a commodity backing the coin itself. So it's considered money to them. So that would be considered money. But then walking around with fiat notes is nothing. So that's why people invest in gold and things of that nature. But then what they don't tell you is the number cycles and how they play with the number cycles on the stock market. So, and we'll eventually get into that. I'm not going to touch on that here. That's a lot more information that would need to be presented, how the stock numbers are actually printed. I can't even go into that. That's a cultish too. But some stuff about the pyramids I'm going to talk about right here. But essentially, so you have these different numbers or whatever. So the 1 would represent monetizing on a certain level. The 2 would represent, like you can monetize, like most of the time monetization happens through like the military. People that are affiliated with the financial aspect of the military definitely know what I'm talking about. Because when you monetize, and then of course YouTube monetizes as well. It's popular with YouTube. But there's different ways to monetize. So the second level will go into a bank. A bank. The third level will go into a city. The fourth level will go into financing private enforcement agencies, whether it's the National Security Agency or police department, and just different organizations. Now, we start talking about the federal FBI, that's going to go into the number 6. And I'm going to stop there because they finance on a higher level a lot of times. And on police as well, they can go up to like 5 or 6 as well. And like the 5 would represent, like there's police that use 5 as well. But actually the 5 goes into art on different levels. There's different levels to art. And I'll just kind of stop at that. with the 5 is represented by art. And the 6 will go into coupons and what's considered free. This is when you get into the level of freedom in finance, and I want to stop at 6 because I want to talk about the number 24, and then I'll shut down for now. So the number 6, this goes into freedom. So like when you start talking about coupons, this is what I financed a lot of myself. A lot of money into this. And they think it's free. You know, you go to these stores, discounts and all of that stuff, and you think that the store is just taking a loss or whatnot. That's not the case. They finance that. There's people that finance that. And you learn more about that. I've learned a little bit about that in marketing. And there's companies that finance that so that people can save and have coupons and, you know, even online even. And things of that nature as far as like saving, and it can also take you into bartering too, but we don't use that in this economy as much as we should. I've made a lot of money through bartering, from monetizing through YouTube. A lot of money. Like, it's the biggest way actually on monetization. The fastest way to cash out is through bartering. If you want to eventually get your cash, YouTube ain't gonna pay you. That's not how you get it. I mean, I used to think that as well, but once you start getting into studying monetization, you'll understand there is another level to that. And I won't go into that here, but as far as like getting it quick, people just got money locked up in YouTube and stuff like that. You can barter. You just got to find either other YouTubers that may have resources, because people that YouTubers should want to barter with you. If not, they're stupid because of monetization. They can make more money. Like, for instance, if you was bartering something with somebody on YouTube,